Hello, and welcome to today's webinar, Tech Talk, Replacing Tape Backups with AWS Storage Gateway. On your screen, you'll see a Q&A pod. Please submit your questions for our presenter and moderators at any time, and we'll address them while they come in. At the conclusion of today's presentation, there will be several poll questions preceding live Q&A. Please provide us with your feedback when you see these poll questions appear on your screen. Today's webinar is being recorded. In the next few days, we'll send you a follow-up email with the on-demand links to the presentation deck and the webinar recording. And again, welcome to today's webinar, Tech Talk, Replacing Tape Backups with AWS Storage Gateway. Our presenters today are David Green, Enterprise Solutions Architect, and Peter Baltazidis, Senior Product Manager. Welcome. The floor is now yours.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining the webinar today. I'm David Green, an Enterprise Solutions Architect here at AWS. I'm joined by members of the Storage Gateway team, Peter Baltazidis and Paul Reed, who are both Senior Product Managers, and Dylan Loxon, a Senior Product Marketing Manager. So, do you have on-premises tape backups or expensive VTL hardware? Worried about moving cases of tapes off-site and not sure about the integrity of data on your tape? In today's webinar, we'll cover how to use AWS Storage Gateway to replace existing traditional approaches. Using standard backup software and Storage Gateway, you can write backups to its virtual tape library, or VTL, file, or iSCSI interfaces, and store data durably on Amazon S3 and Amazon Glacier. This enables both long-term data retention for compliance and recovery into Amazon EC2, locally, or another site on premises. Also, Peter Baltazidis will perform a live demo of Storage Gateway, which allows you to retain familiar, proven workflows for backup, but now start using the cloud quickly in under an hour. We'll also leave time at the end of the webinar for Q&A, so please ask questions using the chat window along the way, and our team moderators will respond. So, we're going to be talking about tape-based backup today. Tape's been out for a long time and used in computers for over 65 years, with the UNIVAC being one of the first use cases. Well, not this kind of a tape, but this kind. This is LTO, or Linear Tape Open. LTO released in the year 2000 with version 1 and is currently on version 7. LTO has become the de facto standard for tape-based backups. Well, tape. Who likes it? Well, I'm a converted tape user. Growing up, I watched some cool spy movies and adventure movies showing huge tape libraries full of tapes and robotic arms flying around, and I thought it was one of the coolest things, and I thought maybe one day I could build something like that. Well, I never made it quite the super spy level, but I was able to deploy and manage a multi-petabyte tape backup system. And I must say, it was exciting watching the tape arms flying around and moving in the library, taking tape cartridges from slots and loading drives. And as the tapes were filling up with data, we needed to take some cartridges offline and eject them out of the tape library and put them in the vault to make space for new tapes. Well, things were manageable at first, so we can offload tapes into the vault, and there weren't too many initially. And tapes are typically offloaded to a vault, which could typically be either on-site or off-site, depending on requirements for data protection. And based on retention policy, your mileage may vary on how you store your data. However, this quickly became my reality. So why is tape used? What do people want out of tape? Typically, the goal is to retain data in a well-preserved format off-site for longer periods of time than production systems or online backups could affordably retain the data, and for greater resiliency or redundancy to local copy. Fast recoveries can be performed locally, either leveraging volume snapshots or retrieving a tape cartridge from the local on-site vault. However, some restorations from off-premises may take a while depending on how far away your tapes are stored. But people think tape is cheap, right? And what typically comes to mind when you think of tape is the cost per tape cartridge, which is relatively low. However, there's many other considerations that you should think about when you're deploying a tape system. For example, customers requiring geographic redundancy will have to store multiple copies of tapes in a remote location. So for example, perhaps one on-site, one off-site in a vault, which may be far. And some customers are required to store tape backup media in a completely different region in the world. And there are considerations around deploying and maintaining infrastructure, which include procurement of tape library and filling the initial tape load, so loading all the tapes in the library, which traditionally is a large expense of purchasing the library and drives and robotics. Sometimes licensing of the product doesn't allow for complete use of the system. So even though you may have several tape slots and drives, maybe you're limited to only using a subset of them. And additionally, another cost that's typically overlooked is refreshing the tape drives or library as updates to the tape platform are released. So this also includes lifecycle management of aging tape media and tape generations. I mentioned in the beginning that LTO1 came out in year 2000, and now we're on the current version of LTO7. As you store data along the way, in order to stay modern, most users migrate data and drives from old versions to new versions. And the migration process, when you run it, consumes resources on tape systems. So for example, if you have tape drives dedicated to reading old tapes and writing new tapes, you effectively reduce the usable capacity of the system until the migration process is complete, which may take a long time depending on how many tapes you have to migrate. Well, the tape backup story is really personal to me, and I hope to share my story with you to help make modernization of your backups easier than it was in my experience. So, I spoke about the cost and considerations involved with deploying and managing tape systems, and with Storage Gateway, customers really only have two areas of responsibility. The first one is your backup software, and you can leverage the same backup software that you're running on your existing physical libraries. And the second consideration was cloud storage services. So, for example, if you write data from your on-site system to Amazon S3 or Object Store, you can control that and manage when you move data from S3 or lifecycle tier data from S3 to Glacier. And it's a minimal experience. It's so easy to do. And one of the great benefits of leveraging AWS for backup is leveraging the 11 nines of durability with S3 and Glacier. So customers can spend more time focusing on core business and not spend time managing tapes and libraries and dealing with any issues, perhaps tape failure or destroyed tapes or anything like that. You also have the benefits of security of the AWS cloud. So you can get fine-grained access control and audit control to see exactly what happened when and who called that action. And this is much easier than life used to be in the traditional tape physical days. And one of the greatest things, for me at least in my experience, was there's no more lifecycle management. You don't have to worry about moving types of data or anything like that. And that's really a big benefit with customers that I speak with. And customers focus again on core business, not managing tape, but really focus on what differentiates their business in the marketplace. And we also pass savings along to customers. So over the past years, so since 2006, we reduced prices on AWS over 60 times. And here's some options of moving data from on-premises to the cloud. You can leverage a cloud connector. So some applications have a native API to access S3 or Glacier natively within the backup application. And of course, the command line interface can still be used to execute backup commands. We see customers leverage tools such as S3 Sync, which functions similarly to rsync. And you can just run it in the command line and copy data from on-prem to the S3 cloud. And some benefits there include multi-threading and multi-part uploads to really benefit and move data as quickly as possible over your existing internet connections. And the AWS Storage Gateway really changed how backups leverage the cloud. Backup software is given the ability to write to the cloud without any changes to the backup software itself. So this allows customers to write data through the cloud gateway, and the cloud gateway lets your application not know that it's cloud. It just looks like it's a LTO drive and a tape library. And the cloud gateway didn't just replace physical tape libraries with more economical storage like S3 and Glacier, but also the truck and the process of retrieving data from offsite using trucks and physical methods. So instead of using tapes and trucks to move data, you can use a commodity internet as your carrier. And today we're going to talk about the Storage Gateway appliance. The storage gateway is typically deployed within your existing environment on one or more virtual machines. You then point your existing applications or storage systems or devices to the gateway, which interfaces using standard storage protocols so existing applications can connect without changes. The gateway connects to S3 or Glacier and even volumes connecting to EBS snapshots. And the gateway optimizes data transfer from on-prem to the AWS cloud. And you can also leverage some S3 transfer acceleration capabilities native to S3. It also provides low latency access with local cache, so your applications can access frequently used data. The service is integrated with CloudWatch, CloudTrail, and Identity Access Management, IAM, and KMS, which are key management services. So you essentially get an extension of AWS management services locally. And in addition to backup, Storage Gateway can be used for disaster recovery, cloud bursting, tiering, and migration. You can also launch Storage Gateway from within the AWS cloud on EC2 for local access within EC2 instances. Peter, Senior Product Manager of AWS Storage Gateway, will provide a deeper look into the offerings of Storage Gateway and perform a live demo. Peter, take it away.
All right, thanks, David. Yeah, as David mentioned, there's 3 different types of Storage Gateway. The first one is File Gateway. File Gateway enables you to mount a network drive to your backup server, and this connects via NFS. Files that are backed up through File Gateway are uploaded to a bucket that you own in S3. Files appear as objects in S3, and because you own the bucket, you can apply lifecycle policies to archive or tier that data to S3 IA or to Glacier. The second type is Volume Gateway. Volume Gateway connects to your backup server through iSCSI and provides block-based storage. You can back up those volumes to S3, and then you can take EBS snapshots of those volumes. Finally, there's Tape Gateway, and we'll be focusing on Tape Gateway today. Tape Gateway presents itself as a virtual tape library connecting to your backup server through iSCSI. You can create virtual tapes through the Storage Gateway console. Those virtual tapes are in S3, and again, you can archive those tapes to Glacier for AWS's lowest cost storage. Okay, let's take a closer look at Tape Gateway. As we mentioned before, Tape Gateway connects to your backup server through iSCSI, presents a tape drive along with a media changer. As far as your backup application is concerned, it looks just like any other tape library. However, in this case, we're managing virtual tapes that we create through Storage Gateway. The tapes are highly secure. You're getting all of the benefits and all the security benefits of S3 and Glacier. We support leading backup applications. Again, if you're using one of the leading backup applications that we'll show you a little bit later, you can continue to use the same backup applications and the same workflows that you have with Storage Gateway. Data is compressed, in transit, and at rest, so you're getting an extra little benefit from a cost savings point of view. Your data is secure, it's also encrypted, and you can have up to 1,500 tapes immediately accessible in your virtual tape library. You can also have an unlimited number of tapes when you're archiving those tapes. So again, you can have a good number of tapes that you can create at the click of a button. And I'll show you how to do that during our demonstration. Okay, let's take a look at some of the benefits of migrating to AWS virtual tapes. The first one is, I think, very important. It's a seamless replacement of your existing tape systems and your workflows. With Storage Gateway, you can have an easy and non-disruptive way to start using the cloud. You can continue to use the same backup application, your same backup workflows, and your same backup policies. Secondly, you can reduce maintenance costs. You can eliminate that physical tape infrastructure, that tape hardware. No more dust and no more rust. You can also lower your cost through simple licensing and predictable costs. Again, you don't have to worry about those spikes in costs associated with replacing that hardware or even repairing that hardware occasionally. You have the security and durability that AWS affords, such as military-grade encryption and 11.9's durability. And the last bullet point here, again, is very important, I think, is accessibility. You know, when you're logged into that physical tape workflow, you can only access those tapes in 1 or 2 locations if you're copying those tapes. With Storage Gateway and with AWS, you can access those tapes literally from anywhere in the world. You can start up a new storage gateway and access those tapes again. And that becomes very important, especially when you think about the current paradigm where you're retrieving tapes from an offsite location, plugging those tapes in, and managing those tapes. So what are some of the backup applications that we support? Again, here's a sampling of some of the leading backup applications. We support Veeam backup and replication. Veritas, we support both their Net Backup as well as Backup Exec product. Commvault, EMC's Networker, Hewlett-Packard's Data Protector, ArcServe, as well as Microsoft's DPM. Okay, let's take a look at an actual customer example. Here we have Southern Oregon University, and they've been using Storage Gateway for quite some time now. You know, what drew them to Storage Gateway was the fact that they were getting sick and tired of managing the physical tapes. They said it was a headache, and they also were attracted to the low cost that Glacier provided for them. So they started using Storage Gateway. As you can see in the quote here, they were able to drop in Storage Gateway into their existing workflow and start using Storage Gateway in literally hours. The little map icon on the right-hand side also shows another benefit that they were able to get. One of their requirements was to have disaster recovery as well as geographic separation from where they were. They're on the West Coast in an earthquake zone, and they were very concerned from a catastrophe point of view. So what they do now is they use an East Coast AWS region to back up their tapes, and again, they're getting disaster recovery out of this architecture as well. In this example today, or in today's demonstration, I'll actually go through the process of setting up Storage Gateway, and again, show you how quickly you could set this up, and also create some tapes at the click of a button. Okay, let's take a look at a customer example with respect to cost. Again, this is a customer we were working with recently. They were writing about 100 terabytes a month. They were doing, on average, 1 tape retrieval, and they were keeping their data for about a year. As you can see on the left-hand side, there's the cost associated with storing those tapes in Glacier. There's a cost with data written via the gateway. That maxes out at $125 a month. And there's the data transfer out and the tape retrieval costs, and a little bit of admin time. On the right-hand side, you can see what the costs were before. There's a much bigger admin cost here, because what this particular customer had was they had an admin that was actually shuffling tapes between 2 different locations as well as to their data center. And they were doing that every single day. There's also costs associated with the tape library maintenance. That's usually an annual contract. There's the robotic tape library itself. So if we look at the cost on an annual basis, we can see that there's a cost there. There's media costs, so you're buying tapes. This customer was buying tapes every month, sometimes hundreds of tapes. And they were off-site, and there was off-site storage costs as well. So they were shipping those tapes off-site, and again, paying a monthly fee for storing those tapes. So you can see the difference before and after in terms of what this particular customer can achieve. And you can see that the difference can be quite meaningful. Okay, with that, what I'd like to do is go ahead and show you a demonstration. Okay, when you log on to AWS for the first time, or Storage Gateway for the first time, you'll be presented with this Getting Started page. What we'll want to do is click on this blue Get Started button. That'll take us to the Storage Gateway wizard. Again, as we described, there's 3 different types of gateways that we can select. We're going to click Tape Gateway. We'll click Next, and then the next step is to select the host platform. Again, if we were deploying this on premises in my data center, I would click on VMware or Hyper-V, depending on which environment I had. In this example, I'm going to click on Amazon EC2. I'm going to click Launch with AWS Marketplace. That's going to take us to the AWS Marketplace. What we'll want to do is select the region and click Continue. Once you're in the marketplace, you want to select Manual Launch, because what we're going to do is we're going to select the latest version, the region that we want to launch in, and that will take us to the EC2 console. There's a couple things we need to do here. One is confirm the instance type. Again, here we're picking M4 extra large, but you can of course pick a larger instance if you're looking at even greater performance requirements. We'll add storage. Every tape gateway requires 2 disks, one for its upload buffer and one for its local cache. I'm going to go ahead and add those now. The recommended minimum is 150 gigabytes for each one. but you want to size your cache to be at least as large as your largest daily backup for optimal performance. So now that we've done that, we want to configure security group. Again, we're just going to pick the default AWS Storage Gateway security group, and we're going to review and launch that. Okay. Click our keep here and launch. Now, once that launches, we're going to get an IP address. Let me go back to the Storage Gateway console. Regardless of whether you're deploying Storage Gateway, whether it's in EC2 or in Hyper-V or in VMware, you want to note the IP address because that's what's going to associate your AWS account with that instance of Storage Gateway that's running in that environment. So we're going to click Next, and we're going to enter in the IP address here. I'm going to click Connect to Gateway. Okay, once we get to this step, there's a couple of things that we need to add. First is the name. The backup application. In this example, I'm using Veeam's backup and replication. And what this will do is it'll set the correct media changer type for this backup application. And now I'm going to click Activate Gateway. All right, we can see that the gateway is now active. It's looking for those 2 disks that we just created. Again, we're going to select one as our cache and one as our upload buffer. So now we have cache and we have upload buffer, and we're going to click Save and Continue. Great. Here we can see our new gateway. It's running. And we can see here we have 0 tapes. So let's go ahead and create some tapes. I'm going to click here and I'm going to say Create Tapes. And now we can create as many tapes as we'd like. I'm going to click 5. Let's create 5 tapes. And here you can determine the capacity that you would like to use. Again, I happen to be using LTO4 tapes. So in order to keep the same workflow as I had before, I'm going to click 800 gigabytes. But again, you can pick anything you want here. If you're using LTO5 or LTO6, you can pick 1.5 or 2.5 terabytes, up to a maximum of 2.5 terabytes per tape. The tapes require a barcode prefix, and again, I'm going to go ahead and enter that in here, and I'm going to go ahead and create the tapes. You can see 5 tapes. Let me click on that. And great, we have 5 tapes. So you can see now, I created 5 tapes at the click of a button. Imagine the situation before where you had to order the tapes, unpackage the tapes, go ahead and plug them in. That entire process has just been eliminated. Okay, so now we have a storage gateway. It's running. We have some tapes. Let's go ahead and connect it with our backup application. So I just switched over to my backup application. Again, what we want to do is we want to connect Storage Gateway via iSCSI. And we do that with the iSCSI initiator. We plug in the target IP of where Storage Gateway is installed. I've already done that in this example. And you can see the tape drives that Storage Gateway presents are available here. You want to click on each one of those and click Connect. Once you've connected them, then Storage Gateway will appear as a library within your backup application. The next thing I want to do is I want to import those tapes that we just created into my backup application. Different backup applications have some different options or different menu selectors here. Again, some of them call them import, some of them call it scan. In this case, it's import tapes. I'm going to go ahead and click on that and confirm. And there you go. Also, inventory those tapes. Again, just confirm here. And we should be able to see those tapes. Great. So we can see those 5 tapes I just created with a capacity of 800 gigabytes each. Now what we can do is we can start a backup job, a tape backup job. So you click on tape, you click on backup, you'd select the backup type, you'd select your backup job that you'd want. You'd click your backup job. You'd go through this entire process and kick off that backup. And now that backup will write to that tape, which happens to be in S3. Now what happens if you want to archive that tape once the backup is done? What you want to do is you want to click on a tape, and you want to export it. So click Export. Again, we just want to confirm that. Yes. And that tape now is offline. All right, let's go back to Storage Gateway. We should be able to see that that tape has been archived. Okay, so now that tape has been archived. It's in Glacier. And again, we're getting that lowest cost AWS storage. All right, so in recap, that's our demo. What we did is we created a storage gateway. We deployed it in EC2. We connected it to our backup application via iSCSI. We created some tapes. As you can see, we created some tapes pretty quickly and easily through the click of a button. We imported those tapes into our backup application. I showed you how you could kick off a backup. And we also ejected or exported a tape so that we could archive it into Glacier. So with that, that concludes this demonstration. Okay, great. That's it for the content. I'll hand it back over to the webinar producer, and we'll move into Q&A.